really believe that Douglas has played a huge part in my energy levels and me regaining normality.
The individuals that saw Douglas have had significant improvements in health, morale, and that's affected the business no end.
I know that I can go to Douglas with confidence and get the pain taken away.
A weight had been lifted from my body. That's the main thing from me. It's almost like I've been carrying around this negative energy or extra weight.
Thanks, Douglas. Thanks very, very much for my life.
I think his healing is really fantastic.
Douglas is coaching plus. It's not just the tools to enable you to create your goals and make sure you achieve them. It's about understanding that plus, giving you the incentive from the energy that you have within to really make sure those goals are achieved. Very special work. Yeah, I'd recommend him to anybody. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Silvia, international news researcher, and I'm here today in Belgravia, London, to interview Douglas Ballard, international healer and visionary. Thank you very much, Douglas, for accepting this meeting and to answer some questions that I have. I would like to start to ask you something, to introduce how you began your healing journey, because I think that would be very interesting to know. And how would you describe yourself as a healer, and how did you start your journey?
Thank you, Sylvia. Well, the journey, I think, started obviously when I was born, and I didn't really know what it was all about, obviously, until I was about 6 years old, when I felt that that was when my grandmother died. And I felt then there was something different about me. I didn't know what it was. And I felt through my teens and growing up, there was something different, but I couldn't make out what it was. And it wasn't until I was sort of halfway through my life, really, into my late 30s, that I began to feel that there was a need to help people. Now, I come from a business background. I ran a big company and did that for many, many years. And then eventually I started up my own company. So I come from management and those sort of skills, business skills as such. But I would say that it really happened when I was skiing in Aspen. And it basically happened when I was in a hot tub. We had a hard day skiing, and we was in this hot tub. This business colleague of mine, he was with me. And this lady came along towards the hot tub and with her two daughters and said, could we come in the hot tub with you? And my friend said, well, I'm just getting out anyway. So they came in and got into the tub, and I could see the lady with her head to one side. And if you're a golfer, you talk about golf. If you're a skier, you talk about skiing. And she said, I had a fall today. And she said, we're flying back in the morning, or we're flying out of here tomorrow. And just even without thinking about it, I just said, well, I think I can help you. Absolutely random. I was a businessman. My friend fell over in the snow and burst out laughing, thinking, what is this guy talking about? We only had one drink, by the way. And I said to her, perhaps we could meet in the lobby and I'll see if I can help you. And he said to me, you're seriously not going to do this, are you? And I said, yes. And anyway, we went back into the lodge lobby, and there she was. It all sort of came through me. It was like, okay, now you tell her to sit on a chair. And this was just inside, like a voice. It was fairly strong. So I asked her to sit in a chair. Now, bearing in mind, I had no idea what I was going to do. I could have made a complete fool of myself because I didn't know what I was going to do. And so she sat in the chair, and I was directed to put my hands on her shoulders. Now, bearing in, she had a neck problem. So then my hands I placed upon her neck. And I was only there for a few moments, maybe 10 minutes, maybe 12 minutes. I took my hands off and I said to her, can I put my hands around your neck, your throat area? Which I did. And I said to her, you have a problem with your throat. And she said, yes, I damaged it many years ago. And the two daughters that were standing there said, Mummy, you've never told us that.
Wow.
And she said, yes, I had this accident. And I said, well, I feel that this will now get better. Well, bearing in mind my friend standing there, I have to say he did have a glass in his hand and he was having a few drinks. But he thought this was absolutely amazing that this business colleague of his is saying all this stuff, which in his eyes were rubbish. And anyway, she got up from the chair, she turned her head to the left and to the right, absolutely no pain at all. The throat, obviously one couldn't talk about because, you know, that would have taken days to maybe to improve, I don't know. But certainly the neck was very evident it happened. And that was really the first time that it ever really happened. And it was strange because we were there for a week skiing and everything changed. It was like people came to me that had problems and I didn't know why because I hadn't said anything to anybody. The lady most certainly didn't because she went off, flew out of Aspen the next morning. And a couple of days went by and we were in the kitchen area where you just prepare your snacks as you do in America. It's all off on the hoover. There's say, you know, you make up a bit of toast or you have an egg or whatever and then you sit down and eat it quickly and go off. But I came out of the kitchen because there was a couple of ladies in there. And I sat in the sitting room with my colleague and I could hear this lady saying to another lady, oh, I came here yesterday, she said, and I arrived in the afternoon with my husband. And he said, come on, let's go up on the ski lift. And she said, I feel really ill, she said. And he said, come on. He sort of talked me into going up in the lift. And this was the Aspen lift, so it was a very steep lift. And she said, I vomited at the top and came straight back down again. And he carried on skiing. She said, I waited for him at the bottom of the ski lift for a couple of hours. And she said, I'm feeling so unwell, she said, I'm going back home today. And she said, my husband's going to stay on and he's going to ski and join me later. So the other lady came out of the kitchen first and then she came out of the kitchen and exactly the same wording, I think I can help you. And she said, well, that would be nice. And so I got her to sit in a chair, the same sort of chair that was there the night before. And again, I put my hands on her shoulders, but this time the hands were moved almost automatically to the head. And bearing in mind, I had not a clue what I was doing. I didn't talk to her, I just did that. When I finished, I then said to her, you're going to be okay in half an hour. You can go skiing. And she said, thank you very much. She said, I'm going back home to see my sick child. And I said, well, you're going to be okay. You can ski. She said, no, thank you very much anyway. And then her husband walked in and I saw him. And she said, he's staying on. So she said, thank you very much, and off they went. So I was saying to my friend, I said to him, I just keep getting these messages, I've got to help the child. And he said, well, how can you do that? So we went back that evening, and bearing in mind, as far as I was concerned, he was still in the lodge. And I said to the housekeeper, who was a guy, I said to him, it's this tall guy, blah, blah, and mentioned the name. And he said, no, he said, they checked out. So we went off to have a dinner, and it was pretty late that night. And we went into this restaurant, had a meal, and just before we came out the door, I looked up and I thought, it's just a heavy dump of snow. It was snowing so hard. So I was looking down to make sure I was putting my foot in the right place, because there was a little step there. And as I went down, I looked up, and there was the lady standing right in front of me. And I said to her, so what are you doing here? I know it sounded maybe a little bit rude at the time. And she said, you made me feel so good, I stayed on.
Wow.
So I said to her, well, I need to help your child. She said, you can't help my daughter. And I said, you know what I've done for you. I feel I can help her. She said, you can't help my daughter. She had autism.
Right.
Not a clue what she was talking about. I come from a business background. I had no idea what autism was. And I gave her a card and said, please send me a photo, and with her to write her name on the back. And she said, you really don't know, do you? She said, you don't understand what autism is. I said, no, I don't. But she said, I'm sure she will be able to do it. Well, that was in the March, and in the November, just before then, I got the photograph with her name on the back. Probably helped by her mother, but her name was Annika. And they sent me a ticket and said, look, we would like you to come over. And this was in Michigan. So I got off to Michigan, and lots of disasters always. The case got lost and flights were late and all that sort of thing. But anyway, I got there eventually. And the following night I was asked to do a talk. And this was to the parents of autistic children that all went to a school which was teaching the children the LOVAC system, which I've learned about since. And I was meant to just do a half an hour talk. It actually ended up starting at 8 o'clock. I finished at midnight. Just everybody wanted to talk to me, ask questions, a lot of silence in between when I was talking, and also the fact that there were 3 ladies there, which was actually sobbing in the group. I then finished, and I was asked if I would help some people the next day. And before I knew it, the next 5 days that I was there, every day was full. Treating people, mostly the autistic children, which there was a lot of. And I have to say that was a very difficult experience for me, not understanding what these children were like. It was like, as soon as I was able to touch them, I quietened them down.
Wow.
As we know, there is no cure that I'm aware of for autism. But the results were quite phenomenal. With the feedback that I got, was that the children quietened down. It was interesting then because other people came along with other ailments from all sorts of problems like rheumatism, arthritis, and even one young lady who wanted to commit suicide. And the parents were so worried about her, they brought her along, and I did help her as well. So it was quite interesting that all of this manifested itself into something quite phenomenal, of which I at that time didn't understand. But the voice that was in me guided me to every part of it. So I never had to think about anything. I never had any actions for myself to do. It was I was guided as if my hands were guided to that person and placed on that certain area. And over these years, which has been well in 30 years now I've been doing this, I understand that I let the energy move my hands. And sometimes I go to an area on the body with permission, of course, from the client. I say, look, do you mind, can I just go to your shoulder, or can I go to your chest or to your leg? And it may well be an old wound many years ago that they suffered from, a fall or something like that, or an accident. And I've gone to that particular area because that's where I've been requested to go to. So sometimes it tends to supersede the element that they came in with to start with. So it actually is covering an old wound. If you ask me today, do I understand the healing? I would say not really, because it's something that you cannot learn. In my experience, it's a gift that you have within you. And I know it's a bit corny saying it's a gift, but I don't know how else you explain that. But it's the results have been over these years absolutely phenomenal. When I've done a lot of live shows, big live shows around Europe, and when people come up onto the stage with a walking stick or crutches, and I've had them walk off the stage, and one I remember very clearly in Austria, when the gentleman came up onto the stage with a walking stick, and he got off at the stage and forgotten the walking stick because he didn't need it. And I had to say to him, you've forgotten your walking stick. Last year, a friend of mine had got cancer. It was basically 50-50 chance that he would live. And he was told that look, they've done everything they can do now in the hospital for him. And he said, would you help me? And I started to treat him. And only a few weeks ago, he had the complete all clear of no cancer at all. It's a blood cancer. And he had the most severe chemo. And this guy now is back to work and playing golf on his days off.
Do you think it's a miracle?
I would have said that was. Very difficult to define a miracle, because, you know, I'm amazed when it happens. And I've seen it so many times. But I do wonder what it is. I think you've just said a miracle. I don't know how else I could explain it.
So healing is not magic?
Oh, certainly not magic. It's definitely an energy force which I feel is tapping into me. So you could say, yeah, I'm being used, but I'm happy about that. And I feel that, you know, I've helped so many thousands of people around the world. And it's not just, can I say, the physical healing, but we can also look at the mental healing, because a lot of ailments that we have are mental. And if we can tackle that, then of course a lot of people will recover in the physical form.
Mhm.
I think at the moment, Sylvia, one of the most amazing situations is long COVID. You know, there seems to be, apparently, that I'm aware of, that there are no cures for long COVID. And so I'm seeing people coming to see me with long COVID. And I would say to you that it's quite distressing, because these people that come along have got chest problems, breathing problems, so they get pains in the chest, breathing problems, lack of energy, and the medical profession have no answer to it as yet. Strange enough, I saw one today, a gentleman that came along, and he was saying that he'd been to the hospital, they'd done some blood tests on him, and they'd recorded him as being long COVID. And if he has any problems, just to go back to the hospital. And he said, well, what will you do? And they said, well, we just want to know that you're having problems. So there is no cure at the moment. I could be wrong, could be somewhere in the world that they're doing it, but I haven't heard of anybody dealing with long COVID. The anxiety these people have creates all sorts of other problems.
The pandemic really changed the way people feel, and in fact, how are things now post-pandemic, related to your work as well? How is everything changed?
A very good question. I would say that the pandemic changed the world and changed the people in it. I mean, a lot of people now that I'm seeing, top of the list is anxiety. If you'd asked me before the pandemic, I would have turned and said to you, possibly bad backs. And cancer, of course. I would say now the rate of cancer is growing rapidly. I saw a cancer surgeon last week from one of the big hospitals in London who said the cancer that she's seeing now is up 50%. We all, as far as I'm aware, have cancer within us, but it can be triggered basically by anxiety and stress. That's my findings. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I'm finding. So I'm treating now a lot of people with anxiety. I don't want to jump into stress and depression because that is there, but anxiety is the most prominent problem that I see with clients. They're all very worried, and it's not just the cost of energy and fuel and food and life generally, but it's those in work are not sure whether they'll have work. They're not sure if they'll have a job for very long. They have families, they have children, so they worry about their income. And I think that, you know, as we are now, we can't see an end to it. I think when we all shut down and locked down here in England, most certainly, I know it was 2.5 years ago, it was a daunting experience. Are we ever going back? We did within about 3 months, but it's not the same. And the whole of the world is not the same anymore. And I only heard yesterday of 3 people that have now got COVID again. So it hasn't gone away. We're probably trying to live with it now, but it's the effects that it's working on people and even children.
So how do you see the future of our health?
I feel that we're going to be in a state of anxiety and apprehension, which we were before the pandemic, quite free and easy, down the pub, in the restaurants, having nice holidays. We're now apprehensive about it. And I think it depends on the type of person, whether they can cope with apprehension, whether they can cope with anxiety, because it's the unknown. And we've never been in the unknown. Is it a situation of the world having a reset that's going to change things? And we sit here today and we know of wars and riots, and we know of all these different problems of volcanoes and things erupting and bad weather around the world. You know, the world has changed. And we can say, well, there's always a change in the world, and there is always a change in the world. But there seems to be a more dramatic change at this moment in time. I don't want to get into the politics of that, but what I'm saying is it makes people feel anxious.
Definitely.
And I'm not sure how we're going to move forward with this, because I treat a lot of doctors. The general consensus is they're definitely not coping with it. That's why I'm treating them, because they've got anxiety and stress. Theirs is slightly different. They've certainly got a good, strong job. They're not going to lose their job. Financially, some of them are finding it difficult. But on top of that, of course, it's the stress of how many people they have to see and the type of conditions that they're working in. So if we look at that, and they need help, I don't quite know where we go beyond that. I'm just seeing more and more people in that anxiety band that need help. I mean, I would not have gone back 10 years ago and ever thought I was going to be treating doctors and surgeons. It would not have been something that I would have been doing. Is healing being accepted now? I would say that I'm getting accepted more so now than I used to. But of course, they're accepted because they can see the results. And that's the most important part. It's seeing the results that is important. I love my work, and I'm always happy to be able to help people and make them feel happy in making some sort of improvement to their type of living. Any form of improvement, whether it's 5 or 10% in their life, is better. Like the guy that had the walking stick and he was managed to walk without the walking stick. It's changed his life.
Thank you. So even though healing is not magic, great things can happen with healing. So can you tell us a bit more about how healing works?
Well, healing, from my own personal understanding, is universal energy. So if you have a belief in a supreme power, i.e. God or whatever, then go with it. Whatever religion you believe in, go with it. But bolt on, I feel, universal energy, because the universe has the power beyond all our understanding. I have in the past years called it an intelligent energy because it is intelligent. It's far greater than we are as humans. So when I'm working with clients, it's the energy that comes through me. It's not my energy. It's the energy that comes through me. Now, sometimes I get a coldness that runs through me, depending upon the severity. And And that energy penetrates down through that person, who can often say to me, I feel hot, I feel cold, there's a tingle, there's a shiver. Some people experience different things in different ways. And we have to remember every single person is different, so they're going to accept the energy in a slightly different way. I would say that we all have the capabilities of getting closer to that energy, working with it. I mean, having a belief is important that there is something out there. I think we're beginning to see world changes, which I feel is all connected one way or the other. But I feel what comes through me, and I can only talk about me, is quite phenomenal in the results that I see. I'm not egotistical about it. I'm very happy about it. I'm amazed myself sometimes of what happens. But to give people back some quality of life, you can't ask for anything more. No matter what level it may be. I mean, if it's only 5%, it's 5%, but that's 5%. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it can be 50%, and in some cases, it can be 100%. It depends upon the severity of it. But one must always remember that there needs to be some form of self-help as well, so that if your back is improved, don't go out and dig the garden and chop down trees. Give your back a chance to heal itself. So the healing process stimulates your own healing process within you. And that has to be stabilized. So it's always a weak point there until your body has adjusted to it. So you have to bear that one in mind as well.
Mm-hmm. And before you touched about mental health as well, and please, can you tell us a bit more about mental health?
Well, mental health, if we put it in a category of anxiety, this is where people have these problems that stem from their mental health. When they feel that everything's not going to work for them, they look at one could almost say the dark side of life, but it's not. I mean, it's the fact that things aren't improving for them and things aren't getting better for them. It brings on different ailments, and I think this is known throughout the medical profession, that, you know, if you're suffering with mental health, mm-hmm. it does bring on other ailments. But of course, it's what has sparked that off? What has sparked off anxiety? Is it something that stems back to when you're a child, and maybe through a bad childhood, through bad education when you're at school, or in your jobs, and all the problems that go with people that you work with, like bullying and so on? So this all plays a big part. Some people are very good at handling anxiety and stress. And mental stress can ruin a person's life. If you can control it at an early stage, yes, that's the best way to do it. But I find a lot of people go down the rabbit hole and they don't want to come out because they're fearful of what's out there. And these are the people that just need help. I mean, there's a lot of different therapists out there which do a great job. I'm always a great believer in what anybody can do to help anybody is great, because, you know, we need as many people as we can to be able to give their therapists opportunities to work on people that are in a difficult state of mind. The question you asked for what the future holds is, I feel, a lot more anxiety and mental health problems we're going to incur now. Not next year or the year after, but now. It's happening now.
Thank you, Douglas. One other important thing that I wanted to ask you today is that you are quite unusual in that you're also a visionary. How does that work?
Well, that again works with the voice that comes through. and I'm able to snap into people's questions immediately, which is quite phenomenal, really. So I don't have to focus on it. Some people say, is it you talking or is it the energy talking? And sometimes I'm not really sure who it is that's talking, but the answers come out. And it's worked for many years, and I've helped a lot of people with all sorts of problems. And everybody has their own important question, whether it be about their family. Of course, we always know about partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, but also businesses that want guidelines of which direction they should be going. And remember, we're going through a very rocky time at the moment, so a lot of businesses are contacting me, wanting to talk to me, because they need some sort of reassurance with their investments. So yes, it's something that's there. And bearing in mind also that with the visionary side, it helps those people with a mental condition, because you can help them mentally. I always feel that the healing, the hands-on healing, does bond it all together. Although saying that, of course, I had to change when the lockdown came along. I had to start using Zoom. I'd used Skype many years before that. But of course, now I work all around the world, and we can do that with the function of Zoom.
That's basically, you continued throughout the pandemic, though. I can imagine it was a big shock and quite a change, because you couldn't provide a hands-on healing anymore. How did you find an alternative to that during the lockdowns scenario that we experienced?
Well, it basically just happened. And if one's looking at the universe and what the universe can do, suddenly I've got a video from the Kevin Moore show, which is on my site, my website, that for some reason went out into the States. It was in England a few years prior to that, but it went out again. It was relaunched last year, when the pandemic was around, and all of a sudden I had loads of people contacting me from the States and further afield into India and Africa and all sorts of places that I would never have believed. So yes, I mean, it did change for me, and I was able to help people through Zoom.
That's great. And is healing just for some people, or like, for example, there are some people who are more receptive than others, or is for everyone?
I would say that it's for everyone. I've never had anybody that has not benefited one way or the other. Some people expect a lot more, of course, but I'm not saying I can help everybody. All I can say is that you do get a benefit from it, whether it's small or whether it's large. But I mean, I've got clients that go back years that come back and see me. And so I can say that it does help people, but it has to be an attitude of mind. If you're negative before you start, then the energy will only give you what you basically need, and that's it. But saying that, I don't get that problem. I normally get people that want to come and see me, and they've had good results from it. And of course, the thing is, with the healing, it's not one of those things where you come back and see me, because once you're better, you don't come back.
That's really amazing.
It is amazing.
It's really amazing. I think that we are running out of time, unfortunately, but next time, hopefully, you can allow me some more of your time, and because I would love to ask you more questions about the healing.
Thank you. Yes,
so much I would like to know.
Nice to be on your show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.